It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, hands up, yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's the Full Court Press here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan. Broadcasting on those radio frequencies, also streaming on your mobile device on the 106.9 The Fan mobile app and streaming online, 1069thefan.com. That's where you could also find past episodes, past podcasts, past interviews, available for your listening pleasure whenever it's convenient for you. So a lot of things going on today. A big show, especially in this 4 o'clock hour. I had a chance to get up to Utah State football practice today, talk to another position coach. We'll hear a little bit more about the offensive line. A little bit later on, we'll be talking to Coach Tim LaComb. He'll be joining us. He is the radio studio analyst for the Utah Jazz. And he'll be joining us to talk a little bit about the young guys on the players for the Jazz and how they're developing and what he observed for this season and what still needs to be done for the franchise. We've reports about the investigations and the certain things that need to be met for Utah State with the Department of Justice in their soup. Some recent reports about some improvements that are actually being done and made at Utah State. Some of that does affect athletics. And so a lot of different things going on here on the Full Court Press today. And as always, on any of these topics, we invite you to be a part of the program as well on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. Jason, it's the weather's been awesome this week. And up to practice, it was like, I should be out like golfing or something. It was beautiful today, and the football team was out there active. Now, they don't let us in to see practice, but I get in there just as practice is concluding when the whole team huddles together and they have somebody speak to the team.
Were they at the Merlin Olsen Field, or were they still in the indoor?
Every time I've gone, they've been on Merlin Olsen Field.
Oh, really? 'Cause when I went there once, they were in the indoor.
So I know that they'll probably mix it up from time to time based on weather. But as beautiful it was today, they were on the field. Now they have their practice field as well, but maybe I'm just whenever I show up there at in the stadium. But it was a beautiful day, and obviously I didn't get to see how practice went. But there's definitely a positive energy in that team, just how the team interacts with each other, how they're together when they huddle, when they break out to their different units. There's a really good vibe about this team. Whether that translates to wins on the field, I don't know. Whether that equals talent enough to win a bunch of games and get to at least a bowl game, that is still to be determined. But there's definitely this feeling that there's a real positive energy going around with Utah State football right now.
Yeah, and I think you touched on the thing that I wanted to comment as far as like the good energy, the good vibes, and so to speak. Because, yeah, we don't know if that's going to translate this offseason, because most teams will have all those good vibes and yada, yada about the team, unless something went really wrong in the offseason, which that happened for this team last year, where it felt a lot more tense.
Yeah.
Where they were kind of rallying around each other, but it felt like the whole season was going to be kind of this last stand, like, just fighting through all the trials, all the adversity. Got brought up after every single game. What this team is going through, put it all in context, yada, yada. But this team is going to have the optimism that most teams have. The fact that, this can be our year. We're going to go after a conference championship, bowl game, all the stuff they typically put on their list of goals. And they're going to have that all season. They're going to have the confidence that they can achieve that. There's some history at this program. I know that a lot of fans are going to see this as kind of the initial season of a build back up. So, a 6-win season would mostly accomplish a lot of the fans' expectations and goals towards building back up toward being a conference contender. But the team will certainly push to go beyond that. But I don't know. I gotta wait until I see a little bit more of this team. Even then, there's always the off-season, context. You got to put everything in. Every time somebody throws a 40-yard touchdown in practice, that means the defense gave up a 40-yard touchdown.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
It's something that we're gonna have to parse out, and we're gonna have less, less to work with, because we're gonna see this team in fall camp. I believe they're gonna be opening things up publicly once the spring window, closes. And hopefully they won't have lost very many key players. Of course, not that we really know who many of the key players are, because we haven't seen this team scrimmage or practice or anything like that. So hopefully they won't lose too many players in the spring window. Hopefully they'll be able to get as much in front of the fans as possible before opening day. And hopefully all this energy, the culture that Bronco Mendenhall is trying to build, I think he's going to be very successful in establishing that. This is a guy who's very experienced at all that, but is it going to translate on the field? That's the biggest question. I think this team is going to be disciplined in a lot of ways, but discipline doesn't always equal talented. And while it is always great to have a disciplined team and one that you can be proud of for what they do off the field and their, the demeanor they have on the field, wins rule everything. Georgia, you look at what happens at Georgia. They have one of the worst cultures in the NCAA. The guys can't stop drag racing and getting in trouble. They're consistently in the playoffs and regarded as one of the best football programs in the country, despite all the crap that goes on off the field. So it'll be nice to be proud of the character of the players on the football team, but fans show up to the stadium to see teams win. So hopefully they're going to do that as well.
So I got a chance to visit with Mario Acitelli. He is the offensive line coach and also the run game coordinator for Utah State. This is the final week of practices for USU. The spring transfer window opens tomorrow. I asked him a little bit about that. But Utah State will conclude their practices on Saturday, and then we'll see what happens this week and into next. If how many players do enter the portal in this spring window. It's inevitable that some players will. It's just a matter of how experienced are they? How does that affect certain units? But it's also an opportunity for this coaching staff, now that they've been in Logan for a couple of months and they've observed what they have, to say, you know what, we need a little bit more help in these areas. So that will be interesting to monitor for Coach Mendenhall and his staff. But this is so we're trying to make plans to get some more interviews that we can before the spring practices do conclude. But earlier today, talked a little bit about the offensive line. Mario Acitelli, offensive line coach and run game coordinator for Utah State. First, you're one of the few coaches that didn't have a personal connection to Bronco Mendenhall. You didn't play for him or coach with him before. So what was it that brought you to Utah State in that connection, and what you knew about Bronco?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I spent a good portion of my life in the state of Virginia coaching football at another school in Virginia, William and Mary. And while I was there, obviously got to compete against Coach Mendenhall, and also worked with Matt Johns, our quarterbacks coach, who had played for him or GA'd for him and then, coached for him. So had a good idea of his reputation and also the things that were important to him, and felt very aligned to it. So it was an easy decision when he called.
That's cool. So as we're getting to know some of the different position coaches here at Utah State, it's always kind of interesting to know those different connections that exist with bringing everybody together, bringing a staff together in a short amount of time. So with what you said, I mean, you've got an interesting level of experience across different levels of college football. So what are you kind of observing here, and what's the potential of this team?
Yeah, like you said, I've done a lot of different things in my career, from special teams, running backs, tight ends, offensive line, just a bunch of different things, but also a bunch of different schools. And when I come here, the thing that I'm struck by the most is the alignment from really the top down. Even from the first day I was here, Diana Sabao came and talked to us, and the alignment was evident immediately all the way down through Coach Mendenhall, his whole staff. Like you said, most of them have been with him for a long time. And so being able to fit into that and believe the same things is critical. And I do. And I think that's the thing that stands out the fastest.
What are you observing so far about the offensive line and this football team so far through spring?
Yeah, the offensive line has a bunch of guys that are a little bit less experienced and are battling for, position mastery, trying to learn how to do the things we're asking them to do. But at the same time, they are fighting to play hard and learn how to play hard and strain and finish and those types of things. And they're willing to do that. And you look at the whole team as a whole, it's a group that's coming together from a camaraderie standpoint, that's learning how to play hard together and do hard things together. And those things together will help them win.
Yeah, some of those guys who have had some experience, at least being rotated in from time to time, Tavo Motuapuaka, George Miley. What have you kind of seen from some of the guys who do have some experience here and trying to get more of a larger role?
Yeah, so George from day one has just taken on the ownership of, I'm going to be the leader on the offensive line, I'm going to be a vocal leader for the team, and I'm going to be all in. And he has been. Like, from day one, George has been the most all-in player you could imagine, and just vocally supportive, helping others. Like, it's been great. Tavo coming back off of missing some time last season, and has really worked incredibly hard to put his body in the right position to be successful, and might be one of the most improved guys physically since the time we got here till now, which is really cool to see him push through.
So you mentioned there's it's a group of guys trying to learn the skill in their roles here, but how would you assess just the size of the group, and just physically, are they how are they coming along and getting ready for Division I and needing to be competitive in the Mountain West?
Oh, certainly. Coach Cook did a great job with those guys for the first really 9 weeks since we got here in January, and they trained their butts off, and that's a big part of it. So they've worked really hard. They're putting on weight. Some guys have improved weight-wise. You think about, like, Trey Anderson has put weight on from last year, which has been big for him. And they're working towards it. So that'll continue as we go through the off season here, and there'll be a point of emphasis to get bigger and stronger, and also, like, we're going to fight and scrap and play as hard as we can.
The spring portal window opens here very soon. We'll hope that everybody stays. You never know who may or may not be leaving from a program, but are you, through spring practices, able to kind of see that there might be some needs to go after to help supplement the roster ahead of this fall season?
Certainly. I mean, the spring portal, as you said, opens tomorrow. We don't know exactly what everybody's going to do, but we'll take things as they come and work through it as a staff.
You're also the running game coordinator. What are you seeing out of the running game so far?
Yeah, I think we have some really good running backs, and we have a group of receivers that really – they're blocking downfield. They're doing a great job. They're involved in it too. It's a whole staff buy-in to it. It's not just the offensive line. It's certainly not just the running backs. It's a whole staff thing, the tight ends, the quarterbacks even, and the receivers buying into it. So I think we got good buy-in from the group. And when we do things right, you can see the talent the running back room has, and just the effort they play with.
Earlier in spring practices, I interviewed Nick Howell, and he was impressed with the communication coming from the offensive line. Was that just a one-off thing that maybe he just observed, or is that something you've seen that's been consistent?
It's been growing. I think our defense challenges us every day with different looks and different blitzes and things like that, so it forces us to communicate, which has been great. We've been able to practice and hone in and be more concise and get that communication across as fast as possible. But like you said, there's some guys that have more experience than others, and so counting on those guys to be the leaders of communication, and they have been.
You only got a few practices left with these guys before you just turn them over to strength and conditioning until you see them again in the summer. What are some of the things you're hoping to see here in the last couple of days?
Yeah, so I think what we're hoping to see is just the guys continue to play hard and push themselves to the limits. You think about guys like Jake Eichhorn, who's here and really driven to be a great player, and want to see those guys go compete at the highest level they can and just learn how to push themselves, and we're going to continue to help them.
Awesome. Coach Acitelli, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
There you have it. A little bit about the offensive line, the run game, and what's going on with Utah State football here in these spring practices. There are some guys with some experience that are trying to fill some roles there, but it's largely an offensive line that's trying to come together and figure out just what they really have here. Because you do have guys like Trey Anderson, George Miley, Tavo to some degree, who have had opportunities to rotate in and play some roles, but your starters from a year ago are really not there.
Yeah, he basically lost most of the offensive line rotation. I think George Miley is like the one guy who is getting consistent snaps that's returning this year on that offensive line. But I think they have some really talented guys. They have a couple of redshirt freshmen. They were high recruits. Junior Sia, he's a guy who redshirted last year as a pretty highly regarded recruit. So, with a year of development, could maybe see some things from him. But yeah, it's just going to be about figuring out who on earth is going to be the starting offensive line. And like with any team, it's going to dictate a lot of what you can do on offense. Can you pass effectively? Can you keep the quarterback upright? Can you establish the run effectively? So much hinges on the offensive line, and we're going through a season where there's going to be a lot of upheaval on that offensive line. Last year, that wasn't really true. They returned a lot of guys to last year's offensive line. There's a lot of continuity, and I think it was to the benefit. The offensive line was able to shine at times.
Oh, yeah.
And it helped, mind you. It wasn't perfect, but it was generally pretty solid. It was, one of the few areas of the team where you could say that's not a weakness. That's something where they're doing just fine in. But this year, there's going to be a lot of question marks. So, looking forward to seeing what we get out of this O-line.
Yeah, because last year that was one of the units of strength for Utah State. Just the experience that they had and able to protect the quarterback and keep him relatively clean, whoever that was back there. But this year, that could be possible. Some growth pains could be in the works for Utah State in that category.
Yeah, especially because they could be a little younger. They could end up being younger, which can be a good or a bad thing. Good potentially long term, maybe not so good because young players, experienced players, tend to make mistakes.
Yeah. Got a couple of texts that have come through. These actually came through yesterday. Let's get to those here real quick on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321 for anyone who wants to chime in. But 9315, this was about Gary Clark. I don't know where this comes from.
Yeah, as we're referring to Gary Clark's free throw percentages from last year.
I don't know the report. You did a screenshot of a report somewhere, but basically the area of focus is his free throw shooting last year, which is about 58%.
Yeah, not particularly good, and that's his career low, and it does raise some questions, partly because the season where he had the highest volume of free throw shooting last year was at 3.8 attempts per game. That was his lowest percentage, and he's actually gone down in free throw percentage every year of his career, at least at the Division I level. I'd have to double check his junior college stats as a freshman, but he was at 79% as a sophomore at Tarleton State. Then he was down to 64% first year at Texas A&M Corpus Christi, and then, as you mentioned, 58% this last year. So, bit of a concern. But I think it's something that if you put some work into, as long as he gets back into like the mid-60s, which given he has a history of shooting in that range, even higher, but I think the 79% he shot as a sophomore, he shot 24 free throws that year. So small sample size can produce really high or really low free throw percentages. So if he gets back into those mid-60s, I think he'll be fine. Obviously, it's not good, but power forwards and centers tend not to shoot much better than 65% for the most part. So as long as it's not abysmal and below 50%, you'll kind of take it.
All right, we do need to take a timeout. We'll get to 1909's text here in a little bit, but we need to take a timeout and line up our next guest, Tim LaComb. He's the studio analyst, former coach, and for the Utah, not coaching for the Utah Jazz, but he's a former college coach and was a studio analyst for the Utah Jazz Radio Network. And so he's been gracious enough to join us today to talk about the conclusion of the season and give us some ideas on what he observed from the young guys and their development and where the team goes from here. We'll have a conversation with Tim LaComb coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
Alpine Home Medical has been around for over 25 years. Can you believe that? Hi, I'm Jay Broadbent. What keeps us coming to work every day? We're passionate about caring for you. From home and bathroom safety to transportation, mobility, recovery, oxygen, sleep, and more, come into any of our 10 locations today and let us take care of you.
Alpine Home Medical, we bring wellness home.
Visit us at alpinehomemedical.com.
This is Jay from Daryl's Appliance. It's our 55th annual Spring Savings event. This Saturday only, triple dip in savings. We have partnered with the major manufacturers to give you exclusive extra savings for this one-day event. Get spring sales prices of up to 40% off, plus pop a balloon for up to $100 extra off, and save even more with exclusive mail-in rebates. This Saturday only, it's Daryl's Spring Sale, where service always comes first. Daryl's West on Airport Road. Listen for the live broadcast Saturday morning.
The chips and drinks are endless. The burrito is huge for only $7.95. It's got to be Cafe Sabor, Cache Valley's best Mexican restaurant and gold medal winner in the Best of Northern Utah contest. Experience Locals Day every Thursday with a huge burrito, endless chips and soda, only $7.95. Finding any lunch under $10 is nearly impossible. Every Thursday, drinks, chips, and a massive burrito. You pay just $7.95. The food, the fun at Cafe Sabor in the historic train station on 6th West and Center in Logan.
This is Catherine Buse with Cache Valley Bank, and we understand that concerns about fraud can weigh heavily on you. Your peace of mind is important to us. That's why we're committed to looking out for you and your family. Our team keeps a vigilant eye on your account. If you ever have concerns or need support, we're just a call or visit away. Whether you need advice or just someone to talk to, our friendly staff is ready to help. We're more than just a bank. We're your neighbors, and we care about your security. Visit your local branch today. Cache Valley Bank, member FDIC.
This is Kyle at Advanced Door, and we guarantee every garage door we install for a lifetime, parts and labor. That's every door, every spring, every roller, every track, every motor. The entire garage door system guaranteed for a lifetime, parts and labor. We're Advanced Door, and we guarantee you'll be hearing this for a long time. Find out more at advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
The Aggies are #1 here. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, and the Utah Jazz. Their season is now done. They concluded with their worst record in franchise history, but there may be some good things to note on this season that was a bit of a struggle for wins, but did they develop and improve in certain key areas? And to help us answer that question, we've invited Tim LaComb to join us. He is a studio analyst, Coach Tim LaComb on the Utah Jazz Radio Network. And Tim, thanks for your time today.
It's awesome to be with you guys. I was just telling you when you called, I love Logan. I got a bunch of friends up there, so it's great to be on. I appreciate it.
It's a great place to live.
Yeah, we like it. We're okay with it. So I know that wins were kind of hard to come by, and that really wasn't the point this year, but it was also a season to develop the younger guys, give them opportunities to develop, and just a blanket statement of the younger players, and I'm going to walk Walker Kessler out of this discussion, but the first and second year players, who did you observe improved the most over the course of the year?
Well, I think everybody did it in spurts, and that was the interesting thing. You mentioned Walker, and I think, he was really, this year was big for him, and he had to have a good year after a great first year and then kind of a lackadaisical second year. He really found it this year, and I think he solidified himself as kind of the big man of the future here. And so alongside him, I mean, the guys you look at, obviously Keontae George. I mean, Keontae improved in a lot of ways. The numbers, they don't always show it. I mean, his percentages are about the same, but he really found a better way to play. He got to the line more. He was way more efficient. And, he still had ups and downs, but really finished the season on an up note, getting 35 in one of those last couple games. So, I think Keontae made a step. I think Isaiah Collier was probably, if Walker was the story of the year, Collier was right there. I mean, he's a guy who the Jazz really felt fortunate to get where they got him in the draft. And he came in and kind of, came off the bench, and then they decided about, he started 46 games, so he really got a great feel for the starting point guard role. And in 26 minutes a night, he really distributed the ball well. I mean, he was a guy who averaged 6 assists a game, and, on some nights it was 10, 11, 12. He broke Stockton's record, obviously, for rookie assists for the Jazz. And so I think his future is really bright. The question mark is, can he shoot it? And, he's shooting 25% this year from three. But he really did start to shoot better as the season went on. So I'm excited to see him with a full off season to work on that. We lost Taylor Hendricks early. That was tough. But just by what we saw in the short stint, he only played 3 games, but he looked vastly different. He continued this season to change his body. And so I think Taylor Hendricks is going to be a real surprise next year. I'm expecting really good things from him, a very versatile player, both offensively and defensively. Cody Williams, of all the guys, probably had the worst year, the most difficult year, but I kind of saw that with his size, his lack of strength, and that's, you're going to pay that price in the NBA if you just don't have an elite first, which Cody doesn't have. So he really, I think this year just learned what it's going to take night to night. And he was, I thought he did a good job at dealing with, what was in front of him, knowing it was a hard task. But I still see good things for him. Like Taylor, if he adds some weight, he'll be able to impact the game. And then the last 2 guys, Filipowski and Sensabaugh. Filipowski was awesome. I mean, for a second-round draft pick, to come out and average 9 points and 6 rebounds, a couple of assists, and really, I mean, he had his career highs in both rebounding and points in that last couple games. So a guy that I really like and is a plug-and-play big, I think will be around a long time. And Sensabaugh surprised me more than anything with his three-point shooting. I always thought he'd be kind of a mid-post, matchup problem or an isolation player. And he really shot the three well this year. He shot over 40%, way up from last year. His three-point last year was 29.6, and this year he shot 42.2 on about 1.6 more threes a game. So Bryce was a very, very bright spot. I would say overall that the Jazz have chose very wisely, and the verdict's still out on a couple of guys, but I like the trends.
So one thing that you mentioned, all the first and second year players who, a lot of them took big steps forward, had a lot of really great production. One thing that I always worry about when it comes to young players putting up that kind of production is, the context, because sometimes you can have young players put up really good numbers on bad teams, and then they kind of get lost in the shuffle as those teams move out of a rebuild. What's kind of key for a lot of these guys to make sure that they can retain this kind of production and eventually have an impact on winning? Because obviously they had a lot of this production, but wins were hard to come by. What needs to change for a lot of these guys to go from productive rookies to, impactful on winning veteran types?
Adding win shares.
Yeah, win shares. That's the key.
Yeah, exactly. Great question. And I think, for all the good things I talked about, he'd go down the list with all of them. And I think the thing I've enjoyed working closely with the Jazz and watching Will on a daily basis, they're very transparent about those things. And it's almost a column of, here's the things that I'm pretty proficient in, and here are the things I need to get better. And that list's different for every guy, but I can promise you this, they know it. Were any of these performances just like eye-popping crazy? No. But I would say for an on-the-job training for a lot of these guys, because the roster, I went through 9 guys, so young, that really the veterans played an important role just to get these guys acclimated. And for them to go out, and so many of them to go out and make big steps, I think that's a promising sign. How long will any of them last? I think, that's the age-old question, and that goes to who you pick and their character and how hard they want to work. But I would say for each and every one of them, there's work to do, not to get comfortable, and to really attack the weaknesses in your game this offseason. I think that's where guys get better.
Does Taylor Hendricks participate in summer league, in the summer games?
I'm not sure of his timeline. I know if he's healthy, I know he will, but I just don't know. I have not heard the latest on, he got the boot off and I've seen him out shooting prior to games and things, but I just don't know how much they have to do to prepare that. I would hope he could, because reps are everything, live reps particularly, and so it would be awesome for him, but I think that's a wait and see.
One thing I want to ask with Taylor Hendricks is potentially how he might fit into the team next season, because you're looking at the draft where the Jazz may end up drafting, ideally they draft Cooper Flagg, or you could also get a guy like Ace Bailey, who's a big forward. I'm curious how that may impact Taylor Hendricks next year if they end up going with one of these forwards at the top end of the draft, because then you'd have Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler,
John Collins.
A lot of these guys in the front court. Does it kind of get too crowded for him, like the way it was in his rookie year?
I would think that it could possibly do that, and my hope is that they do get Flagg. I think that would make it all very interesting very quickly, because I think the Jazz would then be talking about, kind of really digging in and moving a couple pieces to get the ideal piece to go along with what you have. And I think they'd be in a good place to rock and roll. But, Taylor's situation, the one thing, like I mentioned, he's very versatile. And for a big guy, the thing I loved about his college film was he guarded 1 through 5. He was a switch everything guy. And if he had to battle down in the post for a couple of possessions with a big guy, he would do that. And if he had to switch onto a point guard, he'd do that. So I think that actually, his defensive versatility works in his favor. He's never necessarily going to be a wing that's going to bounce it a bunch, at least not what I've seen. He seems to be more of a catch and shoot guy, maybe a 3-and-D type guy. So, depending on how it shakes out, he may have some possibilities at the wing. His handle would have to improve some. But, yeah, you make a great observation. I would imagine if they were to get a guy like Flagg, a guy like Bailey, I think regardless, John Collins played really well this year, and I think his name will be seen different. I would expect John to be a part of some sort of trade or sign and trade or something like that to kind of get some time for these young guys. That's what I would think they'd do, as opposed to make a young guy sit.
Okay, you kind of segued into my question that beyond personal development and personal improvement, what does this team functionally need to do to improve next year? Like, are there certain positions that need to be bolstered in the offseason, whether that's in the draft or free agency or trades? Or what this year was very different and unique from what we're used to, but if this Jazz team is going to be starting to actually compete this next season, where do they need to go? What type of pieces are missing and that they need to try to replace or find in this offseason?
Well, I think it's more, again, I look at this year and, you judge the team by that 82 games, but when I look down the list and I watched it on a nightly basis, like Lowry played 47, John played 31, Walker played 30. So, like, everybody would clamor the defense was horrible, and the defense was not rated well. But I think overall, they just need some consistency as a group together. They're going to add talent in this draft. There's no question about it. The floor is going to be the 5th pick. And so really, I think now the years of, playing hodgepodge lineups and those types of things, they've really affected the ability for the team to move forward scheme-wise.
Yeah, what did I see? Like 45 different starting lineup combinations this year or something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. And honestly, guys, there were times we didn't know up to, the last break prior to throwing it to Locke and Boone whether guys were going to play or not that night. So it was hard, I think, for all those guys to get in a rhythm. And so I think more than anything, after this year particularly, because they're going to add a high-level player, they add that to the mix. They make a couple of moves, based on what they think. And maybe, who knows? Like the Phoenix thing could explode, and Booker may want out of there. And I have seen with my own eyes Booker run from one end of the court to the other to give Danny Ainge a hug before a game. So you just never know the possibilities. My point is that I think they've got a ton of talent. I think they've drafted well. I think they need to lock into the details. Offensively, they got to stop turning the ball over, and they got to be stronger with the basketball. They've got to be better, as a team shooting the ball overall. I think this year they were 35% from three. I'd like to see that teeny bit higher for the threes they take. And then I thought they rebounded at an elite level this year, and I thought they rim protected when Walker was in the game. So add the pieces, tweak it a little bit, and then get into the details of what this thing's going to look like for real going forward. I think sooner that you can get that to that point, the better.
You mentioned adding talent in the draft. Obviously, a lot of eyes are going to be on that top pick that the Jazz end up having, whether it be 1 through 5. But they have, I believe, 4 draft picks overall, 2 in the first round, 2 in the second round, at least so far as I can count. I'm curious how you think I feel like the team may approach the draft, given they have those 4 draft picks, but they also could have everyone on the current roster, at least all the active players. They have them under contract now. A lot of them have team options. A lot of them, are not fully guaranteed. So there's a lot of wiggle room they could have, but I'm just curious how they may approach the draft, if they are willing to just kind of jettison some of the guys they have on the roster to bring in 4 new players, or whether they might, try and move some of those draft picks around to consolidate them into 1 or 2 players instead of 4.
Yeah, I think that's a very good possibility, especially after the last couple of years. I thought they were going to trade out of last year, honestly. I didn't think they'd take 3 young guys after taking 4 the year before, but, they did. And again, like I said, it would be one thing if those guys didn't show the ability, but each and every year those guys in their opportunities got better, and each opportunity they got better. So I think the future is bright from a young guy standpoint. The thing I always talk about is the Jazz have so much collateral and so much in their war chest, picks and swaps and all sorts of things, that I would not be surprised, depending on the outcome of the lottery. I don't know that you can move up to get 1, but the Jazz aren't happy with where they are. They can move. There's no doubt about that. So I look at that. I think the obvious is that everybody wants Flag, but the Jazz obviously have their guys in a row, and they've got somebody they feel really good about. You saw that the year Ainge kind of tricked, Orlando out of Fultz out of Tatum, traded and ended up getting Tatum 3 anyway. So now it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. We got to just kind of lean into this front office and what they see. But I would fully expect some sort of trade. I'd be surprised where I sit right now if they take all those picks this year.
Yeah, we're talking to Tim LaComb. He's a studio analyst for the Utah Jazz Radio Network. And Tim, if the Jazz do not get Cooper Flag, do we go through another season like we just had, considering the wealth of young talent that's supposed to be in next year's draft?
Well, it's all new to me, man. I grew up in the wrong era when, every game you'd go out there. And Ron Boone, to this day, he still has a hard time losing so much. And he's definitely in the middle of that old generation. But I think it's you have to play the hand you're dealt. And I do know that Danny Ainge, if anything, he's patient, and he's never in a hurry, and he never gets his hand forced. He's always kind of waiting for someone else that's in a bad situation to help him, to lend him a hand. And so I think that's what I'm really most interested in is how that goes. If they can get Flagged, like I said, I think they can make a couple of tweaks to the roster, and I think that's a roster that could win 50 games next year. And I really do believe this year, if everybody played every game, they probably would have won 40 plus. Because there was just that second group got so good, and all they needed was a little bit of depth. So I have not dug in deep, but I know obviously people think a lot of Harper. People love Edgecombe. I'd be worried about a smaller Baylor guard myself. And then Ace Bailey's name. Obviously, those are the three at the top. So I think that's everybody's hoping to get in those. But, there will be other plans. And like I said, they've got collateral to move if they need to. So could next year be the same? Yeah, I think everything at this point is a possibility depending on how things go on the 12th of May.
And, looking at obviously the season been disappointing for some. I've seen it's hard to lose a lot of these games. I've seen some fans really frustrated with a lot of the losses, but at the same time, it feels like there was still a lot of fan support despite that, like the attendance, all the games that I saw, a lot of people still there. So it seems like the fans, is that the impression you got, is that the fans were still very much supporting this team, even if, most fans went kind of assuming the team was probably going to end up losing?
Yeah, I mean, fans are by nature fans, right? And they live for their team winning. And when they don't win and they're struggling like they are right now, it gets hard. But you're right on the money. We talked about it all year. I was shocked at how the place filled up every night. It just speaks to how much people love their basketball around here. And, I have heard people, that make threats. If they do this again next year, I'm never going to. I promise you, the minute they get a contender in here, their butts will be right back in those seats because they're fans. And one thing Ryan said up front, through the process, they were going to try to do things that had never been done, and that there was going to be pain involved. And I talked to Danny Ainge right after he got, he joined the Jazz, and we were actually out golfing, and I was at a putting green, and we were both kind of putting, just chatting, and he told me, he said, how important is it for people, that cheer for the Jazz to win? And I said, oh, it's really important. He goes, well, it must not be because they've never won, And he just looks at it different, like winning the conference championship or winning and getting to the playoffs and winning a round. That's not what he's interested in. He's wanting to win this whole thing. And so, yeah, there's going to be some time. And there will be people that get impatient. But like I said, and you guys have seen it at the Spectrum, when times are tough, the diehards stay. Everybody else has other things to do. But when that place, they get a guy in there like they've had again last few years, you can't find a seat, and that's how the Jazz will be.
Coach, we appreciate your time. We've kept you longer than we told you would, but you've been awesome. We appreciate it. We'll have to touch base again as throughout this offseason unfolds and to see what some of these Jazz moves look like and get some of your reactions to it.
Awesome. I appreciate it. And I guess go Aggies, right? I'm in Logan, and I love the Aggies.
There we go. We always appreciate the support.
Yes, that's good.
My Aggies, I try to pub you guys as much as I can because I know how equitable it can be. So, yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
All right, guys. See you later.
All right. That's Tim LaComb. He's a former coach. He's been around the state of Utah for a long time and the studio analyst for the Utah Jazz. Great insight as to what the Utah Jazz season has been like and what they're going through and what this offseason could look like for the organization. Quick timeout. We'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
What is love? Love is what we live for. Love is timeless, never-ending. Love is when you say your name with hers and it has that special ring to it. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we know what love is. Our fine collection of engagement rings feature a variety of diamonds and colorful styles.
And if you can't find your perfect ring,
Jarek's Fine Jewelry will help custom design one that is the perfect fit. When it's love, it's Jarek's Fine Jewelry.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Aggie fans, the blue and white sale is in week number 2 at Locker 42. New discounts every week on the coolest Aggie apparel. This week, take 30% off all Coliseum jackets, coats, shirts, sweats, and shorts for men, women, and kids. Show your Aggie pride loud, proud, and now for less. 30% off all Coliseum brand apparel. This week only. Shop the blue and white sale at Locker 42 downtown Logan and see more specials at locker42.com.
Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson IT.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. Let's celebrate teachers. Is there any group that deserves good sleep more than good teachers? Let's reward them by giving away $10,000 worth of Purple and Tempur-Pedic mattresses and pillows and gel seats. Go to My Mattress Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter and leave a comment about who you're nominating and why, how they inspired you or how they helped you love that subject in school. Nominations are open now through April 20th. Isn't it time for teachers to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
Interviews, analysis, and a little bit of fun mixed in. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Appreciate Tim LaComb joining us. Talking about the Utah Jazz. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, be a part of the Full Court Press this afternoon. And let's hit that, actually, with a short break here. We've got 5338 texting in. Does Gary Clark have only 1 year of eligibility remaining?
I believe this year he wouldn't have had were it not for that junior college run because he played 1 year of JUCO ball at Western Texas. And then he played 3 years of Division I ball, one at Tarleton State, the last two at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. So this will be his final year of eligibility.
Yeah, he is the 6'8" power forward transferring to Utah State. The Aggies still have a few positions to fill and some availability still on the roster to sort through.
Apparently hosting MJ Collins, formerly of Vanderbilt, today. That's the report that's going around as they're hosting him for a visit, in-person visit. So we'll see if he ends up committing as well.
And Tanner Toulson was supposed to be on campus yesterday.
Yeah, something like that. There was a visit sometime this week. I forget the exact timeline from the reports, but we'll see if they're able to pull one of those two players, add some scoring on the wing that they lost from Ian Martinez.
1909. This was sent in last night.
Finally getting around to this one. Sorry for the delay.
Yesterday on the show, the question of whether the Pac-12 will be the best of the mid-majors or the lowest of the autonomous five or P5 conferences. One could argue that there is a precedent of other P5 conferences losing its best members and backfilling with G5 teams. Big 12 did it with Houston, UCF, Cincinnati, and some other school, while still remaining the P5 status. I imagine there is a legal argument to say that the Pac-12 has done the same thing and should retain its P5 status. I'm not suggesting that it would make much difference financially, but I think that would go a long way with optics to still be considered P5. Maybe there's something I'm missing, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice if the Pac-12 can pull it off. And again, I don't know what goes into this P5 status legally, because if it is more of a legal thing, if they're supposed to be like five, I don't know what's wrapped up in all these contracts and all these designations that they have, because there is an official designation of these, Power 5 or Autonomous 5 or now 4. And I think the problem is the precedent is there, you could say, and I think the problem is there's a fairly strong counter argument of, well, the Big 12 lost two teams. Now, mind you, they're two best programs, easily. But they retained a lot of their programs.
Their core
overall.
Membership was still intact.
Yeah. The Pac-12 just, died. It lost everything except, based on the fact they didn't get accepted anywhere else, they're two smallest and least valuable. So that's kind of the problem as well. Yes, the Big 12, and mind you, they're the only one because the ACC hasn't had to do that yet. The SEC and Big 10 are just they're the ones gobbling everyone up. The problem is that the Big 12, and mind you, it did hurt the Big 12. Like in football, they've kind of gone downhill a little bit from what they were. They have definitely taken a hit, and it's cost them in terms of prestige. But they kind of hung on to that perception. And the Pac-12, because they lost 10 of their 12 members, whereas Big 12 lost 2 of them, and they got Colorado. They got a Power 5 team to help backfill that. That's kind of the issue.
Well, even before the four corner schools, Colorado, Utah, Arizona State, and Arizona, they added BYU, Cincinnati, Houston. So, they did have some bigger brands to backfill.
They did backfill with G5, but I don't know why I only thought of Colorado, because they added Utah and Arizona State. So
so they not only replaced but expanded.
Yeah, that's kind of the issue there. It'd be an uphill battle to try and argue that legally, as much as it would be really nice to kind of latch onto that label legally, if nothing else, even if there wouldn't be that same level of respect.
All right, another quick timeout. We'll be right back here on the Full Court Press.
Hi, this is Robbie with LSS Insurance. If you're about to turn 65, the Medicare phone calls, mailers, and emails can be unreal. Out-of-market telemarketers simply do not understand Utah, Idaho, or your individual situation. We have real answers and real solutions with local help. At LSS Insurance, we are your health insurance specialists. Call us 752-9493. Having local help makes all the difference, and there's no cost to you. Call 752-9493 or visit lssins.com.
S.E. Needham Jewelers is where Utah gets engaged. Couples throughout the state buy their rings from S.E. Needham Jewelers because of our low prices, extensive ring selection, and extraordinary benefits and services with financing available. Go to SENeedham.com to learn more. We have many unique and beautiful engagement rings starting at $500. You'll find affordable engagement rings with our integrity price guarantee. This is why we are where Utah gets engaged. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 to 7. S.E. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block, at the sign of the clock.
Winter is almost over, and the Sportsman on Main Street has tons of season-ending deals. All skis and ski boots are 40% off. If you need outerwear, it is up to 50% off. All fall and winter casual clothing is up to 70% off. At the Sportsman, we have truly unique clothing and outerwear, so you won't see yourself coming and going. It's our season-ending sale going on right now, only at the Sportsman on Main in downtown Logan.
Welcome, friend, nice to see you again at the Sportsman.
When grid failures and severe weather cause power outages, your business might take a hit, or at home, you could lose your refrigerated food storage. Generac Standby Power Solutions help ensure an uninterrupted power supply. Generac is the #1 brand of standby generators. Get yours today from Golden Spike Electric, your trusted source for safety and security. Golden Spike Electric, powering your peace of mind. Online at gsegenerators.com or call 257-3016. They also service other models.
Markets are unpredictable, but reaching your financial goals shouldn't be. Adams Wealth Advisors is dedicated to helping you navigate these challenges and ensure you're prepared for every outcome. Whether your financial plan revolves around advanced tax planning, estate planning, business strategies, retirement planning, or investment management, Adams Wealth Advisors team of CPAs, CFPs, and CFAs will provide the expertise needed to help you reach your financial goals. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
Now here's a concept. You earmark 1/3 of your profits to go back into the community, to local charities. Dex Imaging does that. My name is Anthony Wagoner, and I'd like to share with you what I know about Dex, the company that acquired Valley Office Systems. Dex Imaging is committed to continuing quality customer service while raising the bar to become a strong community partner. Join us in creating the brightest image for tomorrow. Contact us at deximaging.com.
It's the Full Court Press, weekday afternoons from 4 to 6 on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Spring is definitely here, and it's time to get your machines moving. They've got everything you need at Napa, all the oil brands, and you've got spark plugs and filters. Make sure that your car, truck, your lawnmower, your four-wheeler, motorcycle, your side-by-side, make sure they're running properly by getting the right stuff at Napa Auto Parts. Locally owned, Preston and Providence, Napa Auto Parts. So there's been this specter of Department of Justice and Utah State University over the university, this shadow of bad behavior, frankly, in not just athletics, but there's been some other departments that have had issues as well. And Department of Justice has come in and said, look, you guys are not taking care of things properly and have really been in their soup for the last several years. And a report this week makes it sound like the university is finally getting their act together on a couple of things.
Yeah, has been reported. They got a letter on apparently February 18th that they've demonstrated substantial compliance with a bunch of the provisions of the agreement. So the DOJ going to take a bit of a step back, not completely going away, but being in the process of getting out of Utah State's hair.
Yeah, so they're making improvements, not all the way there yet, but they have been making proper strides. So that is encouraging, and there are more details about that on CashValleyDaily.com. Let's hear from Dan Patrick before we come back and be here again, 5 o'clock hour.
The noise. Travis Hunter stands at a crossroads. A potential pick at both cornerback and wide receiver, his rare versatility allows him the potential to dictate his own future. But if money is any factor in this decision, this offseason may have quietly made the choice for him. Jamar Chase just became the highest paid non-quarterback in the sport at just over $40 million per year. Meanwhile, Derek Stingley Jr. set the bar for defensive backs at $30 million. A massive contract, yet still a full tier below what elite receivers command. Even the franchise tag numbers tell the same story. $24 million for wideouts, $21 million for corners. Hunter is an elite talent at both positions. But in a league obsessed with offensive playmakers, the economic scales are tipped a little bit. The game today is built for guys catching passes, not covering them. The question isn't just where he'll play, it's whether he'll chase history or chase the money. I'm Dan Patrick, and this is Above the Noise.